What is a liminal space? Somewhere transitional. Somewhere you often move through. Somewhere you never seem to stay for long. Somewhere that appears to have one purpose and one purpose only. To take you from one place to another. Yet they seem familiar, nostalgic even. Sometimes maybe even a little foreboding. So this is my attempt to look at liminal spaces and aesthetic places in the Gran Turismo series. I hope you enjoy watching. We begin at Autumn Ring. Somewhere we never really spend a lot of time is the pit lane. Especially the pit lane on Autumn Ring Mini. And that's because there aren't many races of a length that would require even a single pit stop. If we pull up here, we can look out across this lake that's here. Being nearby water often has a calming effect. A feeling that if you could stay here forever, you'd be perfectly content. But you know you can't. You have to move on. And move on we will to High Speed Ring. Specifically to the license tests that feature the circuit. The difference here is that this high speed ring is set at sunset. This changes the whole aesthetic of the circuit, as the setting sun casts its golden rays across it, creating something beautiful. But what can be more aesthetic than the season of autumn, or fall if you're from North America? I'm sure every one of us has our own memories of the season where the leaves change colour, creating a patchwork of yellows and browns. Maybe it's the only time when we frequently look to the trees and appreciate the variety that nature offers to us. If you've ever been watching a replay of a race at Deep Forest, you might have spotted one particular shot, and it's this one. As the cars drive off into the distance, the camera doesn't follow. It simply rises slowly. We're left contemplating this aesthetic view for a few moments. A tree-lined road stretching towards the setting sun. In Special Stage Route 11, there's the section where you drop down to this underground chicane. The barriers here look temporary, like they've been set up in lieu of a more permanent chicane being built. But have you ever looked across to the other side here? There is another road running parallel to this one. It's a reminder that this circuit is probably not a purpose-built course. More so, one that is built using public roads, and when the event has finished, becomes public roads once again. But where does this other road go? It simply fades into the darkness, headed for somewhere beyond our eye line. Grindelwald is a circuit which invites us to take a trip through a mountainous region of Switzerland. We gradually drive upwards to the peak of the circuit, where the road cuts through a forest. Off to the right here is a path that heads right into the trees. We can't see where this goes, only that it goes up and further into the forest, away from civilization. It feels like a starting point for hikers, campers, and more. Those who want to immerse themselves in the wilderness for a while. At Tahiti Road, there are points around the circuit, like this, where you can look out at the surroundings, all the way to the horizon. I love the fluffy white clouds that just sit there, all in a line. They look like the most idyllic clouds you could think of, reminding you of sunny days past spent outside. Hopefully it's not the sign of an impending storm though. By the time we played Gran Turismo 3, time had moved on and some of the classic circuits had changed somewhat. Look at this tunnel. As the years have passed, the ivy has grown from the canopy down onto the roof of the tunnel, entangling itself in the very mortar that holds the red bricks together. Also on the back straight, we can now see beams of sunlight pouring down from the treetops above, coming down to the floor below and also our car as we drive through them. There's something quite magical about it, as if the forest itself is enchanted and we're fortunate enough to pass through it, if only for a short while. Although we didn't get to drive in changeable conditions back in 2001, the normal and reverse versions of circuits sometimes exhibit differences. The reverse version of Midfield is rather hazy. It reminds me of that early morning mist, the kind that you only witness when you get up and out before the rest of the world awakes. Driving around Midfield 2 gives you that sense, that you're one of the few lucky people who is witnessing the circuit in this hazy, calm state. As you make your way around Special Stage Route 5, you'll notice that the street lamps emit white light, but at certain points on the circuit, there are lamps which emit yellow light instead. For me at least, this releases a lot of nostalgia. Growing up in the 1990s and 2000s, the street lamps in the UK were all of a similar yellow colour. If, like me, you'd be travelling along in the back seat of your parents' car, with the interior only being illuminated when you passed underneath each approaching street lamp. Over the years, the street lamps have almost all been replaced by newer white ones, but every now and then, in the scarcest corners of the country, there are still the remnants of the road scene of yesteryear. Special Stage Route 11 returned on GT3 after being absent from GT2. But there was a big change. We can see the old road venture off to the right here, but we're now heading left. And when we do, we're met by this vista of the road ahead, lined on both sides by trees lit up top to tail in fairy lights. Past the end of the road, we can see a Ferris wheel, also lit up in pink and blue. This stretch of the circuit is in stark contrast to the rest. This feels celebratory, festive even. And despite the Ferris wheel being off in the distance, it somehow feels in keeping with the festooned trees in the foreground. Grand Valley Reverse is another circuit that's set at a different time of day to the normal variant. And this sunset becomes particularly apparent when you exit the tunnel and a bridge appears before you. I love how the sunlight casts shadows of the bridge's structure across the circuit. Imagine you're just going for a late night drive. Not to anywhere in particular. Not for anything either. Just because you wanted to. It's just you and the road ahead. You're not racing anyone, you're simply enjoying it. In Gran Turismo 4 at Apricot Hill, there has always been something in the circuit scenery which has fascinated fans. In the hills over there is smoke. Quite a lot of it too. Where's it coming from? Where's it drifting to? It's quite a foreboding image. Is there a fire on the hillside? Do we need to cancel the race? Whatever the case, it's probably something that we'll never know the cause of. Trial Mountain once again evolved in Gran Turismo 4. This bridge up here used to have rocks piled up on it, as if its only purpose was to prevent a landslide occurring. But here, it has been cleared at some point. You can see that bridge heads into a tunnel at either side. So the road that goes over the circuit definitely heads somewhere. But where to? And where from? All we can see is that it heads into a void. As we turn the final corner before the pit entry at Autumn Ring, we are met by a beautiful sight beyond the boundaries of the circuit. Two overlapping hills in the foreground, with a rising, taller hill between them in the background. Have you ever just stared at a scene like this and wondered, just where is that hill over there? How do I get to it? Can I even get to it? And can I get to the top of it? And the fact that it's further away and therefore it appears hazy just adds to the awe of the spectacle. Special Stage Route 5 has long been a circuit that's set at night time. It's synonymous with it. But here on GT4 it's not quite the same. It's dusk rather than dark. And in the final corner in particular, you can look beyond the barrier to see the last remnants of the day. A setting skyline about to disappear beneath the horizon. When I see a scene like this, I find myself clinging on to the last embers of sunlight. Especially if it's been a great day, I just don't want it to end. And I kind of know that once the sky sheds its shade of deep blue in favour of black, there's not much of that once great day remaining. As we come around to the back straight at Deep Forest, a large valley opens up to the left. This has been here since the beginning of the series, but it just feels more apparent in Gran Turismo 3 and 4. Perhaps it's the daylight illuminating it like never before, or of course the improvements in its graphical qualities. We can see a river, lined by the circuit on one side and trees on the other. You can imagine the sound of flowing water, the sandy shores that look so inviting, and yet it looks so inaccessible. It feels like one of those places that's a hidden gem, which only the locals know how to get to. But over time it catches on, and soon, more people flock to it on a bank holiday weekend. But where does it flow from and flow to? Perhaps all that matters is just that it flows at all. Special Stage Route X, a circuit that's featured on the channel before more than once. To me, this whole circuit is an aesthetic. Perhaps it's because it's such an expansive space. Because the scenery seems to flow for miles between wind farms, ports, tunnels and more. And the port in particular feels like it should be busy, filled with dock workers going about their jobs. But it isn't. It's still and silent. There's a real awe, I think, in still, quiet places with no people around. Places that should be busy, and would be busy at nearly any other time. It feels like a rare moment, one that needs to be appreciated, because it's fleeting, an opportunity that might not present itself again for some time. At the start of the lap, between the 3 lanes that span the width of the circuit, there are these openings which cast blue light onto anything that passes beneath them. It's not clear where these lights come from, but it's yet another piece of the overall aesthetic of SSRX. One of my favourite sights in the game is the Nurburg Castle at... where else? The Nurburgring, of course. Maybe it's because I'm from the UK and castles are similarly common. But there's always something familiar and nostalgic about seeing a fortress atop a hill, looking over the scenery below it, just as it has done for centuries.